Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm Bill Hannon. I'm here with Josie Wade tonight, and we're going to be exploring a little more in depth about applications of using plants as your allies to help you deal with situations that you may deal with on a daily basis. We have Stephanie Hardie with us, and she's not just a typical herbalist. She's also taken the intent of following through and really understanding to the point where she's actually just recently graduated from a master's program on how to fold different aspects of herbalism together. And I'd like to welcome Stephanie again for being here with us and being able to share some insights that you think may be beneficial for people trying to deal with situations like you mentioned before, sleeping or relaxing.
Yeah, thank you again so much for having me. Happy to be here and talk a little bit more about herbs.
That's right. There's so many different aspects that you can get involved with, and this also gives you more latitude as to be able to just pick up on something and run with it a little bit. So feel free to express yourself with things that you might think would be beneficial for our audience tonight.
Definitely, yeah. Like I was speaking with you earlier, I really focused in my master's program on autoimmune conditions, which are incredibly prevalent. There's, of course, so many of them.
Right.
I focused more specifically on rheumatoid arthritis, as I have it myself, so it is not only beneficial for me, but for many folks as well. It is the #1 most commonly diagnosed autoimmune issue in America.
Right.
So it's something that a lot of folks struggle with.
Well, I mean, they're starting to understand now, how inflammation is basically probably the underlying cause of almost all dis-ease.
Yes.
If you're inflamed, if you're not relaxed, you're not at ease, and therefore you're susceptible to disease.
Yes.
What do you do yourself to kind of help you get comfort from doing different approaches with herbalism or other steps?
Sure, yeah. I think that's a great question. I like that you incorporated or other steps, because I think specifically with autoimmune conditions or any other sort of complex systemic condition, there is no one easy answer or one easy fix. And it generally is a very much combination approach, between stress reduction tactics, herbs, diet, things like other modalities like acupuncture or Reiki. For myself, obviously, because I focus primarily on herbals, we were speaking earlier about turmeric and curcumin, and that's been probably one of the more noticeable beneficial herbs that I've noticed for myself as far as my RA presentation.
Right. Another one, it just came to me as we were talking, very similar to curcumin, has the same benefits, but I think when they're compounded together, especially if you can incorporate it into a modality that allows it to release itself, such as in cooking or into recipes, the oils and the heat kind of open up the effects of curcumin, but also berberine.
Yes.
Berberine, of course, has a very distinct, rather unpleasant taste to it.
Very bitter, yes.
But that's actually probably what your system needs, is some of the bitterness. And in the sad American diet that we're used to, we don't use bitters in our diet that much, yet over in Europe and Asia and the rest of the world, they incorporate bitters on a daily, they even use it on annual cleanses, because they realize it's important to kind of keep the body balanced between sweetness and bitters. So what would you be able to share anything that that you've actually become aware of through your studies that bitters are beneficial?
Yeah, I love that you bring this up. This is like a hill I will die on. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. The American diet is really lacking in the bitter taste or flavor. Obviously, it's not what we consider generally palatable, so it's avoided.
Right.
But the health benefits through tasting that bitter flavor are innumerable, and they reach far past just digestion, although they're fantastic for that as well.
Right.
You know, through my studies, I've realized and have found, and they've done numerous studies to substantiate this, but when we taste the bitter flavor, that actually starts the digestive process before we've even ingested anything. So, like, you know, in other European countries that use like aperitifs or digestifs, these little cordials before meals, you know, their digestion has already begun before they've even had any food. And so once they do eat food, you can get a better assimilation of nutrients. You can reduce discomfort like gas or bloating or stuff that comes with kind of that overindulgence. So yeah, these things have been completely substantiated, but yet we're still a little bit lacking.
Right. I mean, you look also at the use of fermented foods. I mean, right now, I mean, lately, you know, past 15, 20 years, you know, kefir and things of this nature, people are finding out the benefits of it. But again, a lot of the things that we buy on the market are basically brought into existence through a fermentation process, but the fermentation process is killed before they can market it. And so, you know, if you were able to incorporate a fermentation process that you could do on your own, such as people do make yogurt on their own at home or things of this nature. You know, that right there is part of the digestion process that really does bring about getting the most from your food, because it kind of breaks down the proteins and the carbs and things of that nature so you can assimilate the nutrients better.
Absolutely. And not only that, but through a fermentation process, you're also gaining a lot of beneficial pro and prebiotics as well. So not only are you sort of helping the digestive process along, but you're adding. So you're getting additional benefit.
You're feeding your gut bacteria before you even eat. Wow, that's true. That's very true.
And you can do that through a lot of different means. Actually, this morning I was speaking with somebody about how a lot of sort of naturally derived probiotics are plant derivatives. So things like dandelion root or chicory root that have this inulin, which is kind of further synthesized. Exactly.
I know a person who calls it a prebiotic.
Well, not only that, but it's also, inulin is also very similar constituently with benefits of insulin. The very fact that it sounds alike isn't by mistake. You know? And so the thing is that back in World War II, along with roasting coffee beans, they used to cut up roots and do that with a chicory and blue flag and things of this nature that actually impart a nice roasted flavor to the coffee, but at the same time very beneficial for a balanced insulin, which is right now there's like 80+% of the United States really has some degree of insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes.
I think this is kind of a nice segue to go back to the discussion about inflammation, because that insulin resistance plays a massive biological role in inflammation and our inflammatory processes. And so if that is not under control, it's really difficult to control the subsequent inflammation that it plays a part in causing. So again, sort of addressing these numerous factors for these kind of whole systemic healing.
Right. And so again, it's great to be here to be able to get a little more in depth with what we were talking about before. So if somebody came to you with maybe some type of concern about cholesterol or things of that nature, what would you suggest would be a good approach for them?
So it kind of depends based on the individual person. I don't right now do consultation-based work, although I'm hoping to in the future. But I think, you know, sort of that first idea on how to proceed with individuals. Obviously, I like to sort of have a good history about the people, but more than just their physical manifestations. I think it's helpful to know sort of everything about the person, because again, we can kind of direct herbals based on people as people, and more than just people as their conditions.
Sure.
But again, like sort of speaking about the RA, because that's where my personal expertise lies. You know, we address kind of everything, whether that be herbs. Usually I'll start with diet, because that's going to be sort of the most impactful change people can make.
Have you noticed, because they're saying more and more so now, that the gut is the start of all ill health?
Yeah. Wow.
That it's and have you had people that you have to educate about, or, well, you're not consulting that much, but would you consider consulting about diet and explaining how their biome is what they call it, how a microbiome and geobiome, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure she has a great idea. I mean, there's so many different things. It's not just the start of ill health, but it's also the start of good health.
Definitely, yeah. You bring up a great point.
So what you'd be just looking for the balance.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, we come here with one of our greatest lessons in balance, and we start with the very basics of life, nutrition.
Right. And again, it really is sort of the foundation for everything. There's some really exciting new emerging research, you know, that we've been able to find out that a lot of immune cells actually reside in your gut and in your gastrointestinal tract. So our diet, for example, like you were saying, you know, what does this thing influence? Everything. It can influence our immune system, so our susceptibility to common sickness or our susceptibility to larger chronic illness. If we're not feeding all those cells good stuff, they're not going to do as well as they can.
You don't know where the bullet's going to hit.
Right, it's the junk in, junk out, right?
Right. And yet, you know, our society, even the government standard, you know, the food pyramid and whatnot, I mean, they just focus so heavily on the wrong aspects for good nutrition. And you mentioned how it balances. I mean, it's also the very beginning. Everybody's had, for most, I would say, past few years, has been thinking about the serotonin and the dopamine in your head. It's so important to be, you know, balanced in your mind, and it's going to help. And yet now they're starting to understand that 90% of the serotonin that your body uses in the brain actually comes from the gut.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, it's.
Well, that's closer to the cause, finally.
Right. Yeah, that emerging field of psychoneuroimmunology is just unbelievably fascinating, and I could get sucked into that black hole forever.
And same thing here when you start talking about the use of seed oils, and when you're talking about inflammation, and yet seed oils are probably the #1 major cause.
Yeah.
So everybody, you know, you go and you're reading a recipe and it tells you to put in half a cup of vegetable oil or corn oil or whatever, and yet that's probably one of the most detrimental things you can do for your diet is to take seed oils, which are heavily processed, and you use hexene to get the oils, and you can't get all the hexene out of the product. And yet if you just stick with olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil, they help the mind, they help the body, they help the heart. You know, and there's no detrimental imbalance of omega-6 fatty acids, which is what seed oils just dump into your system.
What about grapeseed oil?
Well, I thought it's unhealthy also. I mean, I always, in fact, I'll be honest with you, I actually was using grapeseed oil because of the lightness,
Yes.
and because it wasn't, I thought it was not very high in omega-6 fatty acids. And it turned out that it is, and that it is not that healthy. So again, the olive oil for skin products, the avocado oil, and coconut oil for internals, for the brain, for the heart, things of this nature. So again, for people that are dealing with RA, just
A little bit makes a difference.
it's a big difference.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up olive oil, because actually through my studies, through my capstone paper, I was looking and searching through tons of different articles and clinical trials, and the information out there for olive oil and its really well documented effect on inflammation. You would think that this would be something more sort of widely accepted or available, because it makes a massive difference.
Right. But if you're not going to have chronically ill people, then you're not going to have people that you can sell medicines to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the thing is that just being aware of the importance of
Definitely.
omega oils such as salmon, or
Yes.
I don't even like saying so much fish oils, because you never know the source of the liver
The fish.
Right.
or the oil that
Right.
where it's been sourced from. But farm raised or anything like that, I stay away from. But I mean, there's so many. Being here in the ocean state, there's so many fish, the oysters. You have
Right.
the mussels. You have so many different types of food that are beneficial that are within our grasp.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great piece too, because I think, we were sort of speaking earlier about sort of adjunctive things to add to herbalism. You're saying how you like to incorporate supplements, and I think this is a great place where supplements can really shine, because whether that be through cost barrier or availability barrier, not everybody has access to that certain type of nutrition.
Right.
But you can get a similar or almost identical benefit from a well-rounded supplement, whether that be a botanically based supplement like borage oil, or something like a marine oil, like a fish oil supplement.
That's right.
So you're getting that
Krill oil.
effect without sort of that barrier.
That's the first time I noticed krill oil.
Oh yeah.
The last time I went to the...
Astaxanthin and things of that that are so beneficial for the nerves and the eyes.
Yes.
I remember my.
It doesn't help the krills.
Well,
They miss seeing those bright big whales
let me just share this with you then.
coming after them.
Well, a nice way, if you're concerned about that, a nice way you can get yourself a good base of krill oil is actually Argentinian shrimp, which they have in Dave's and Stop and Shop. It's a red shrimp. It already looks like it's been cooked because it's so red.
Oh.
But the thing is, it's just so high in astaxanthin and the krill oil that...
Is that why they like it, the astaxanthin?
Well, the thing is that the shrimp feed on the plankton off the coast, the west coast of Chile and Argentina. And so they're very high in astaxanthin because that's a large part of the diet. So then they harvest it, and people can get the same benefit just by eating Argentinian shrimp as part of their diet. So I just figured I'd share.
Like the blue zones.
Yeah. So, but you just mentioned krill oil. I just figured I'd share. That's a good source for the too.
Yeah, absolutely. All those supplements are fantastic.
Right.
I mean, not just for RA, but again, they can be beneficial for a lot of different inflammatory processes.
Right. And understanding also, like we had mentioned before, the basis of magnesium for our health.
Definitely.
And you can get a lot of that from your vegetables, your plants, your spinaches and...
Yes, those nice dark leafy greens.
Right. And even those greens that have reds running through the stalks, what's that? It's like a lettuce.
Like shards or some kales.
Right, exactly. Yes. And so that you have a good access to these minerals that the plants are just picking right up out of the soil and making it available to us to right. So,
And they're getting it from the rocks.
yes, yes,
Yeah. I think
It gets it from the soil, which
right.
yeah.
the worms must be healthy.
They're very healthy. Yeah. They add a lot to the soil, which in turn makes healthy vegetables, which in turn makes healthy people. So
It's not unusual to be able to go down to a farmer's market and find people selling bags of worm castings.
yeah, I use a ton in my garden.
Yeah, right.
They're great for the soil health.
Right, right.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, when you put together a salve or a product, is there a regimen that you will follow through? Not just keeping in mind what you're trying to help a specific person with, but I mean, do you incorporate other types of herbs or?
Yeah, I tend to have a bit of a process that I rely on when making different products. Although it's not a huge part of what I do tend to incorporate
okay.
some parts of like astroherbalism. So I like to harvest or make different
Sure.
Products on their corresponding like planetary alignment days or times.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's just like kind of an extra like boost to the overall
Right.
finished product.
Right.
So that can be a piece of what I do. I tend to start, with whatever issue I'm choosing to address. I'll kind of go through all of my different reference books and sort of my personal materia medica to look at what
Right.
herbs I might want to use.
True.
And then kind of narrow down after I look at like dosing amounts
Sure.
and how they sort of work together.
Right.
The balance of a formula is really important. So, for example, if I have a condition that's sort of a really dry condition, like if somebody has a really dry cough, I'm not going to choose a lot of drying herbs because it's
Right.
not going to help as much as sort of those soothing, cooling, demulcent herbs.
That's right.
And vice versa.
Right.
If there's like a very damp, wet condition, I don't want to add to that, so I'll choose sort of more drying, stimulating herbs to kind
Sure.
of counteract that
Right.
that condition.
That's right. Good.
Yeah, there's I'm noticing in the state of health that there are doctors that are now sort of putting their own medications out on the line by mixing known medications and synergistically putting others with it so that there's
More of a benefit.
an enhanced
Oh, sure.
process.
Yeah. Enhanced benefits, sure.
Yeah, I'm noticing that they're doing more of that. I support one doctor that
That makes a lot of sense. The idea makes
does
sense.
that.
Yeah, like for example, in herbalism, something that I'll sometimes explain to folks, which is it's a neat fact, but like for topical applications, say you have a salve or an oil, if you add certain essential oils to that blend, because essential oils are such tiny little molecules, they can permeate the skin better, and so they will sort of act as a carrier to help permeate the skin, and so you get a better delivery of the herbs, so that can kind of help potentiate the effects. So sometimes when we're adding essential oils or these small molecule components to blends, it's not just because they smell nice, but they actually have a
Delivery.
reason,
A beneficial
and a benefit.
effect.
Exactly. So you have this product, you add something to it, and now this product does a little bit more, which is fascinating.
synergistic.
Is the correct word, yes.
Right.
Right
That
on.
was the one I couldn't get.
Yes.
Yeah. So are you familiar with Bob Baxter?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. So he has a hand cream that's very beneficial, and I share it with my granddaughters quite a bit when they have the little bruises or sunburns or things of this nature. And it's loaded with these essential oils. It almost reminds me of when I was a little kid and my mom had some eczema, which of course has a lot of petroleum products in it.
Right.
But the thing is, his is not petroleum based, it's essential oil based. And so, it's just kind of brought to my mind, you mentioned the essential oils. It's a great delivery system,
Absolutely.
but it's also so beneficial to the skin, and it permeates so deeply.
Yeah. His products have a strong nutmeg base for the pain medicine.
That makes sense, yeah.
That's, and I am sure that was used in olden times, and
Oh, absolutely.
just
Oh,
forgotten.
absolutely. Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because it was 4 times a day, and
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you could always get some nutmeg into your diet by eating some pumpkin pie or something,
Sounds good to me. But yeah, it makes sense. Nutmeg and clove have certain compounds
Yes.
that have been used for millennia as analgesics or
Yeah.
pain relieving. An old remedy for toothaches actually
Toothaches.
is clove
Yeah, it was
oil.
a clove.
Yeah, exactly.
a piece of clove in
Exactly.
the absence
and
of
it
clove
makes
oil.
sense.
Right. Very true. So I'm trying to think now along the lines of teas. Do you see yourself in the future possibly incorporating a tea line, or just like some people I know who are involved with herbs and have a practice usually have just a few jars of herbs that they've already kind of combined just for the benefit of
Absolutely.
somebody who may be having issues with constipation,
Sure.
getting a sienna-based tea or things of this nature. Do you see yourself, I'm sure if somebody comes to you with a problem, you can probably just suggest a couple of herbs for them right off the top of your head. I'm just wondering, do you have something that?
I do, yeah. So as far as teas, I do offer a few in my shop. The ones that I have right now, I offer 4, and I kind of formulate them to align with the seasons.
Yes.
So not only in their flavor profiles, but also the kind of support our body would need through those
Sure.
sort of transitional times. So for example, as we're going into the fall, my fall tea has rose hips, cinnamon, clove, orange peel, so these vitamin C rich herbs.
Sounds very tasty.
It's my favorite. But also a lot of circulatory stimulants as it starts to get cold, so kind of helps move our blood. And again, that
Vasodilator,
vitamin C as we move into cold and flu season.
Right.
Does that have a little ginger in it?
That one actually doesn't, believe it or not. Although ginger is a fantastic tea either on its own or it's great to add. It's sort of one of those herbs that is frequently added to formulas as like a driver because it kind of can help deliver herbs as a great circulatory stimulant.
Driver, I never heard it called that. That's
Yeah.
nice.
I think that's a Saja Popham term if you're familiar with him at all. But he's a
No, I'm not. But
really great herbalist. But
I'd just like to take a moment, Stephanie, to thank you for being here with us. Is there a website that you could share with us, or a email address that?
yeah, so my shop you can find at www.gateandgardenherbals.com. If you want to contact, I'm happy to answer questions, and you can find that at gateandgardenherbals@gmail.com.
Excellent.
And what were the 4 herbs that you've
4 different types of teas?
Oh, the 4
Teas.
teas, yeah, I have them for the season. So I have Gaia's Gift for spring, I have Sunfire for summer, and Harvest Moon for autumn, and Deep Roots for winter.
Excellent. Well, that's good. That's good for people to have an understanding of why you may want to change your diet, as we go through the seasons, besides being tasty. But again, we thank you for being here
Thank you
and
so
sharing
much.
with us a lot of your background and making it available to people.
Of course, thank you. It's always an honor to talk about
Well,
the things that I love. So
Again,
Yes.
I always say thank you to the audience here for being with us and for following through on getting in touch with people in the past. So again,